What's up, Cambridge? We got a mashup for you. Keeping it real with a project. Mixing it up for the show. New and original. Unequivocal. If home's your hangout or maybe work or college, we're bringing you a mix of accessible knowledge. Let's go, Cambridge. This one's for you. Inclusive, real, fun and new.
On this episode of the Project Cambridge show, we're calling it a mashup. And that's because we don't just have one guest for you or one theme. We're bringing you a mega mix of Cambridge. Here we go. Coming up on this mashup. Later, we're checking out the London relaunch of Women4Technology. And we're also going to be taking a trip to North Cambridge Academy, where we find out what it's like to be a volunteer for Form the Future. But first, we're paying a visit to Arthur Rank Hospice here in Cambridge. I'm here with Sharon Allen OBE, who is CEO of the Arthur Rank Hospice charity here in Cambridge. Lovely to be back with you, Sharon.
Good to see you, Jen.
So we last interviewed Sharon back in October last year, wasn't it? And it'd just been announced at the end of September.
Yeah.
About the cuts to the 9 of the 21 inpatient beds here at the hospice, and that was due to cuts from Cambridge University Hospitals Trust. So we reported that late last year, and then we've all been fundraising, and everybody's sort of been all hands on deck, haven't they, Sharon?
They really have. I mean, the response from the community has just been phenomenal. In messages of support, in sharing stories about people's experience, and then raising the much needed cash for us. And as you know, we have actually managed to raise enough money to carry on with the provision for 12 months from April. And whilst we are hugely grateful to everybody who has made this possible, I do think it's important people understand it's also been possible because one person who is in the fortunate position to be able to do so has given us a very significant donation. It's not usual to be able to raise this amount of money in that space of time. And I guess the other message we really want to get across to everybody is, whilst we are so grateful and hugely relieved to be where we are, this is a reprieve, not a solution. It gives us 12 months, and then we need to have something else in place. Sorry. To have the long term, so that we can assure our community the capacity is here for them when we're not every year having to go out with this kind of appeal.
It was amazing to get a call from Sharon back in January with the update, but we were very keen to bring her back onto the show so she can really explain what that announcement means, and so that we can reiterate that it means, yes, they're out of trouble, but that's for the next few months rather than a long-term solution for the problem. Also ties in really well with what we're doing with the skydive, doesn't it?
It does. And the timing's great, actually, because in accounting terms, the money that we've raised in this financial year, we will then spend in the next financial year. So doing our skydive in April, which is the new financial year, is kind of one of the kickstarts to this other, well, I suppose the pivoting now of the campaign to say we're over the immediate crisis, and now what we really need is for people who are in a position to do so, and we know that not everybody is, but those who are, to commit, if they can, to a longer term arrangement with us. So our skydive is going to be a great sort of kickstart to the refreshed campaign.
And this is where we really need your help. So we've already got about 15 committed skydivers already who have signed up from all sorts of industries across the Cambridgeshire ecosystem. And that includes myself and Sharon. But we're actually looking for more of you to sign up and jump. So if you would like to jump with us 15,000 feet on Sunday, the 12th of April, just in Chatteris here in Cambridgeshire, please do get in touch with us. Just scan the QR code and we'll send you more details. If you're not able to jump with us, that's absolutely okay. You can still help us fundraise. You can donate to our fundraising pages. If you're a business, you can help get behind our fundraising. Just for individuals, you can share our videos, social posts, lots you can do. But what we really need to ensure that we do is help raise over £829,000 per year for Arthur Rank Hospice. And I think collectively, as a community, that's something that we can all do together and achieve.
I think so too. I mean, it is a lot of money. We recognise that. It's a large amount to have to raise every year. And of course, each year it will go up because costs of everything are going up. And most of the money that we're asking to raise is to pay the salaries of our nurses and our healthcare assistants. And then obviously there's things like the laundry and the drugs and the food and all of that. So whilst it is a large amount, I agree with you, Jen. I think there are sufficient businesses and individuals who are in a position to be able to help us and want to help us. We've seen that. It's about that long-term sustainability.
Another way that you can help out. So I'm here at the hospice, obviously, today with Sharon, which is it's not far from Addenbrooke's, actually. It's just at the bottom of Great Shelford. In fact, it's called Shelford Bottom, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
The bistro downstairs where you can come and have some lunch. I've had breakfast here before at the weekend. A big fry-up, cooked English breakfast. Absolutely amazing. If you want to help support the hospice, come and have lunch, come and bring the family, come and have breakfast. You'll love it. And you know, in doing so, you'll be able to help give back to the charity here.
And also, if you're looking for meeting space, we have really lovely meeting rooms that we hire out and do all the catering, and we've got all the AV and everything you need. So if you're looking for space for a meeting or a small conference, think about us, please.
Definitely. I've seen the space myself. It's absolutely wonderful. There's so much here that you'd have never imagined would be in a hospice. So much community stuff. They absolutely love the community coming into the building and seeing what's happening here. So encourage everybody to come in, see what's what, and see how you can get involved. But Sharon, thank you so much for this update today.
Well, thank you, Jen, for the opportunity.
You're welcome. I can't wait for this skydive. I'm not thinking about it at the moment.
Okay.
I'm not thinking about it. I will think about it when we get in that plane and sit on the edge.
Yeah, it'll be great. I have actually spoken to quite a few people now who've said, oh, I've done it. And I've said, oh, go on, tell me. And they've said it's amazing. It's a fantastic experience. So I'm actually quite excited now. I was a bit shocked when you first bounced me into it. But now I'm quite looking forward to it.
Brilliant. Well, here's to the 12th of April, and we're going to help raise lots of money for Arthur Rank.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. One of our next guests on the Project Cambridge show is actually MP for South Cambridgeshire, Pippa Heylings, and Pippa has been really, really instrumental in generating awareness for the campaign at Arthur Rank Hospice. She took the petition to the government and she's been very, very vocal about it. So she's an absolute hero. We can't wait to speak to her soon. In the meantime, though, when we met her at the Formerly Future conference, we caught up with Pippa for a few words. We are actually going to be having a full episode with Pippa Heylings very soon on the Project Cambridge show. And we're going to be talking about the Arthur Rank fundraising that we're doing. And, of course, we're doing a skydive, aren't we? We're jumping out of a plane. How crazy is that? So we'll join Pippa.
Looking forward to that.
Me too. So we'll join Pippa again soon and we'll talk a lot more. But thanks very much, Pippa.
All right. Thank you.
What's up, Cambridge?
Next up on this mashup, we're going to North Cambridge Academy. But first up, we're taking a trip to London for the Women4Technology London relaunch. On Wednesday, 28th of January 2026, we made the trip down to the capital for the London relaunch of Women4Technology. We were warmly welcomed to the Mills Reeve offices and there was a real buzz around the place as the Cambridge and London ecosystems united for this event. Women4Technology was founded back in 2008 by Cambridge-based Anne Fisher. Anne's been out of the game for a little while, and she's recently passed the reins of Women4Tech over to her friends at St John's Innovation Centre in Cambridge, where she now works as an ed. They're looking after the relaunch, and of course, Anne's still getting involved.
Anne Fisher is a force of nature. She effectively created Cambridge Tech Week, and of course, she's the reason we're here this evening. And what you see in Anne is someone who is fantastic at getting the ball rolling, but then continuing to support. And what's really embodied in this room is the power of finding good homes for brilliant work. And that's why it's so good to hear about the St John's Innovation Centre, to hear about the journey of this campaign, and to hear that it lives on.
Anne is a stalwart. She has this huge black book of connections. She's kind, she's genuine, the integrity is there, and what she believes she goes with. So she really does walk the talk.
I think it's been really great. We've had a really good turnout. We had a superb fireside chat interviewee.
What's it all about? Well, Women4Technology is a UK-wide high-impact leadership forum for senior women in technology, including founders, executives, investors and supporters. And really, it exists to connect, empower and elevate women working in the technology sector through strategic networking, thought leadership and bespoke development opportunities. So Women4Technology has over 2,500 members, and they welcome CEOs, CXOs, founders, chairs, NEDs, VPs and investors to events in Cambridge, London and Manchester. And ultimately, they aim to increase VC funding into female-led businesses and also increase the number of women around the boardroom table.
We have to fix the system, and it shouldn't be on women to fix the system that they didn't create necessarily single-handed in the first place. So I think just as men need brilliant women allies, women need brilliant male allies as well.
It was just such a cool event.
There's been a lovely mix, Jen, between old and new. So there are actually a few of the old London cohorts that have turned up this evening as well, which is so lovely. And as you say, individuals who've come down from Cambridge, and then lots of new faces.
It's that Cambridge ecosystem. You help and support each other, and what comes around goes around, that kind of thing. And I think Anne has just been an integral part of, obviously one of the co-founders of Cambridge Tech Week, which is growing. It's getting bigger and bigger, more international. And Mills Reeve are thrilled to be at the heart. We're always wanting to sponsor it and be at the heart of it. And it's been a wonderful evening tonight, just really buzzy. The atmosphere's been great.
Let's hear what the wonderful Anne Fisher has to say about it.
I'm going to leave it in the hands of the team, but I'm still a non-exec director at the Innovation Centre. So I think the idea is that they feel they can keep rolling me out when we've got things to discuss or events to plan.
Having some of our Cambridge companies, the Cambridge ecosystem down here in London, mixing in our London office with some of our London companies, venture capital investors, the whole tech ecosystem. And Women4Technology is such an important initiative for us in our hearts at Mills Reeve.
Looking the fact that nobody is racing to go home, I am assuming that everybody has had a lovely evening. Amazing speaker from the London Stock Exchange with Zickie Lim as a fireside chat. Great questions. And for me, it's just the fact that everybody is still here having conversation.
Women4Technology, thanks for having us. This little segment is all about North Cambridge Academy. Also, Form the Future and Innovate Cambridge. I live in the CB4 area of Cambridge, which doesn't have the best reputation, and sadly, neither does the local secondary school, North Cambridge Academy. But I thought I'd better go and check it out and see for myself. I've just got back from doing mock interviews with Form the Future at North Cambridge Academy here in the CB4 area. And I've never been on the grounds before. I've run past, I've driven past, I've walked past the school many times, but I've never been inside. I've heard a lot about it, you know, and it hasn't always been the most positive things. I've heard from parents in the area saying that they don't want their children to go there, and so it's, you know, you sort of got these preconceptions. But then in the last few months I've heard a lot of positive things about NCA. A superb principal in Jane Driver who cares so much about the school and the students, and she cares so much about the perception that people have of the school. And I think today, you know, I went in there with a very open mind, and I wanted to go in there because it's the nearest secondary school to me. It's on my doorstep. If I had children, that is where they would go. Well, I was really, really surprised. I met, I think, 7 students, all in year 11, all very different, all each with their own personality and their own aspirations and their own strengths, and I was blown away. And you know, it's a real diverse group. Somebody that wanted to be a social worker, and she's predicted to have a grade 9 for mathematics, and you know, it took me a while to get that out of her, that she was actually predicted a 9 in her GCSEs. And she was really interested in baking and reading and arts and creative stuff. I met somebody else that is super interested in doing food tech. She's also a football player. She was great. I met another chap who really interested in sports, absolutely loves his football, but also really, really interested in business and law, and a really thoughtful guy. And I mean thoughtful in his answers to questions. You know, he's really inspired by other people's achievements and things like that. And yeah, she was just great. And somebody else who, well, she's predicted all 8s and 9s, and she's hoping to go to Hills Road, and she wants to do biology and classics and English. And she also plays the violin and piano to high standards. You know, she was quite hard on herself, and she said that she could work harder. She's really, really creative as well. And kind of torn between the creative and the academic sides of her as well. Wants to do public speaking, gave her a bit of advice on that. She's also really, really passionate about inequalities, and particularly the division in classes. And we spoke a lot about Cambridge and what that looks like here in the city. And then I met this guy, and he's the one that I will remember for the day. He is a musician, and a musician in a band, and a very talented one at that. Also a very talented basketball player. And he writes poems and stories, and he's also quite academic. You know, his English and his maths haven't fallen by the wayside despite his love of music and sport. You know, he understands that the academic subjects need to be up there as well. And he just spoke in so much detail about what he wants to do, and he'd got it all worked out. You know, if he goes to this college, this is where he could benefit. If he went to that college, this is what they do. And just so sure of himself, so thoughtful, and the energy that I got from him was so mature. It was a real pleasure to meet him. I then met a girl who's only been in the UK for the last 4 years. She came over not speaking any English at all, from Portugal with her parents, and you would hardly have been able to tell that English wasn't her first language. And I said, "Are you nervous?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, you're not coming across as nervous." And she said, "Well, that's because, you know, drama is her main thing." And she's like, "I can just act it out." And I thought, wow, that is so cool. She is doing very, very well in the more academic subjects, shall we say, maths and science, and English. She's doing particularly well at, you know, she wants to go on and pursue the drama as well as psychology. I then met a chap who had just been a translator for another guy who was interviewing. It turns out he's only been in the country 3 or 4 years himself, and the language he was translating from was not his first language. So he's translating from Persian. It's not his first language. He speaks 4 different languages. He's done lots of translation for other students. He was just amazing. The way he articulated himself and the way that he was able to express himself and communicate was just, it was amazing. And I had to say to him, you know, you don't realise how amazing you are. You know, he's a leader as well. He takes the natural sort of leadership position in teams, both sports teams and sort of groups as well. Loves his football, loves his cricket, loves his wrestling. Big Real Madrid fan. I said, "What are you most proud of?" And it was his work experience. He'd worked in a restaurant, and it was an Afghan restaurant in Cambridge. Afghanistan is where he was from. And he'd started off doing cleaning and sort of, you know, helping out in the kitchens. And then they said, no, we don't want you to do this. We want you to do our marketing videos. And he showed me on his phone all of the marketing videos that he's done for this restaurant. It's still on their website, that he'd edited himself. It was all there on his phone. Absolutely amazing photography, and how he had, you know, communicated that in these little clips. And it was just such a pleasure to meet him. And it was a pleasure to meet all of those students, and, you know, such a cross section, some on the more academic side, some that were more into creative subjects. This really wasn't what I've been hearing, that this is a school and, you know, there's major problems there. And I wasn't seeing that. And it wasn't the feedback that I was getting from the students as well, who were, on the whole, pretty happy being at NCA. Absolute pleasure for me to be there this morning. Really happy to have been, and I wanted to sort of document my thoughts as quickly as possible, so that I don't forget, really, and so that I can communicate to other people that despite what you might have heard, despite what you might have read, we really need to give these schools and these students a chance. They're doing so well, and what is coming out of that school, and, you know, the support they're getting there and the opportunities they're getting there, it's just incredible. And it's so good to see them thriving. You can see that now, you can see it. And I'm really proud that that's the local secondary school to me, actually. I'm really, really proud.
I'm a regular volunteer ambassador with Form the Future, and if you fancy getting involved, scan the QR code, go to their website, and you can register too. We also recently recorded an episode from their annual conference. You want to watch that whole episode? All you've got to do is scan the QR code. In episode 11, we had an awesome chat with Dr. Kathryn Chapman, Executive Director of Innovate Cambridge. You can see the full episode here and find out what people are doing to help out North Cambridge Academy. Scan the QR code to watch the full episode, or just keep watching to see a short clip.
We want to talk a little bit about how innovation can benefit the masses, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the thing that actually has probably affected me the most this year was a visit to North Cambridge Academy.
Yeah.
And, you know, basically I don't know whether you people who are listening have been out there, but if you haven't, I would recommend, when there's time and when when Jane Driver, the principal, has got time to let you in. But basically, the kids that are there, they will give you the type of energy and momentum that I talk about actually when you go to Boston, because they're so brilliant and positive and they love innovation and be part of it and tech and want to know more about what's going on in the city and how can they get a job. And it's just fantastic. But actually, those kids, they're not, it's going to be tough for them because 50% of them are on free school meals. Yeah. The thing, again, that struck me was we made a video when we were out there, and there was a young lad there, he must have been young, year 7, year 8. And I said to him, you know, what excites you? What would, if you were a entrepreneur, what would you invent? And he had this amazing story of how he would invent this device that would help him get better at football, and it would measure these ankle movements and how it was going to have better trajectory on the ball, and it was going to measure all his health stats and all this stuff. And it really, he came alive. And I said to him, do you know what innovation is? And he said, no. Wow. So, you know, there's a real disconnect at the minute. And I think that's true not just with the schools, but actually the community of not necessarily engaging with innovation or even knowing what innovation means. And so I think there's a lot that we need to do to try and bridge the gap. And connect much more and make sure that those kids at that school know the career pathway for them in the sectors that we're building here in Cambridge first.
It's a wonderful school. If you haven't heard of North Cambridge Academy, it's clearly on the north side of Cambridge, but it's a secondary school there, and it is probably one of the most deprived areas. And as Kathryn said, you know, 50% of the kids there are on free school meals. But you know, innovation has to benefit the masses, and inclusion, it's not a nice to have. It's an absolute requirement, and we spoke a lot about that in the summit back in October. We really do need to extract some of this social value from the growth, so that innovation is really going to benefit those existing communities like the North Cambridge Academy. And that video was amazing. Jane Driver, who is the head or the principal of the school, she's doing some fantastic work. Nearly 50% of those students are from ethnic minorities as well, and 24% of them are SEND students. 6% of them have EHCPs. You know, there's a lot going on in that school, and it's great to see that there's been quite a lot of focus on it through Innovate Cambridge and some of the other. I know St John's Innovation Centre, they've done some really, really good proactive work supporting NCA. And then companies like Costello Medical, they have as well. They've funded bursaries for NCA students so that they've been able to study at the Stephen Peirce Foundation. And I think would you agree, these are really examples where the ecosystem has really responded positively to that call for action on inclusivity?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I think if you think about everyone that's working towards this goal, around whether it be the board members of North Cambridge Academy, whether it be Anne Bailey at Form the Future, you know, whether it be the City Council that are now launching through Cameron Holloway this included programme, which is going to be a very practical way of helping school children navigate their way through future career pathway, and particularly engaging children that actually opt out of education, which is becoming increasingly common. And you know, so yeah, I think actually there's a real momentum behind it in terms of passion and real, as I say, practical things that people are doing. We had a Form the Future event here, and the kids said, the young people, I should say, that came here said, I didn't even know that I could come into spaces like this. Wow. So we said, right, okay, we need another 12 Form the Future event. Let's open it up. More people come in, because this truly, they're just as welcome as anybody.